Hi, everybody. Back with this video to show how to add different video and audio effects to your video clips. This is the same video I had before. So it's the one where it's the same video from the 5x5 tutorial, or my first video. So a couple of things that we can do. First of all, I have a new video clip that I want to add that is not in my palette over here. So lots of different ways you can do that. You could actually open up a window and just drag that video clip right down into here, and it'll be in your palette. Or you could just import them sort of manually. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to do File, Import, and then I'm going to find my video, which is just strictly on my desktop. So this one here has a weird name because I just took it on my phone. I'm going to import that. Now, the problem with this video, when I click on it here, remember you can double click on your videos down in this little area here, and it will show up here, so you can preview it. But this video is sideways. Now, I did not record this video vertically. My camera or my phone was turned horizontally. The thing is, I dropped my phone in the water last summer, and the little gimbal or whatever inside of it will not rotate. So anytime I take video, it looks like this, and I have to rotate it manually. So again, this is supposed to be rotated basically 90 degrees counterclockwise. So that's one thing I can do to this thing. So again, if it looks like this up here, that's how it's going to look over here. It's going to look pretty bad. But let me drag it over to show you. So I can put it here. And again, all of my videos, when you're looking up here in this area, are filling up that horizontal landscape sort of area. But this one is going to look like that. You can't even see the whole video, right? Some of it's being cut off. It's going off of the frame here. So it's basically rotated and zoomed in, not what I want. So there are some things that we can do to this. I can manually rotate this, which is exactly what I need to do. This sometimes happens if you, let's say you're holding your phone straight down, you're trying to film something that maybe is on the table. The little gimbal inside of your phone might rotate the wrong way, and when you actually put it into video editing, you'll notice that it's sideways like mine. So sometimes that just happens just normally. But what we can do is just click on the video. I'm just selecting this video to say, yes, I want to do something to this video. But now what I'm going to do is go up into the editing mode. So there's all these sort of different tabs up here. Photoshop and Illustrator had these. You had to get to them through like the view menu or something, where you could it would load certain windows and tools for doing very specific things. But we want to go into the editing mode. So if you don't see the editing mode, you're gonna have to try to find it, because now once I'm in the editing mode, most of this didn't change, but what did change is now I get this little thing called effect controls right here. Now this wasn't there before. When I was in the learning mode, effect controls was not an option. So, okay, computer, do what you need to do. Basically, what I want to do is, again, select the video that we want to add an effect to. Again, these are going to be kind of some very, very basic built-in effects that are just already there with our video. Of course, my computer is flipping out. There we go. Okay, so when I click on this video and go up to effects controls, there are some things here that are just always with your videos. Like these are just default actions that you can take. The one thing is motion. And so these have little drop downs. You can click on motion. You can change the position, the scale of your video, and you can rotate it here as well. So what I don't want, I want to rotate this, but I don't want to rotate it by hand. If I click here and try to rotate it, like, I don't know if I'm going to be perfect, right? Like it needs to be like this, but it needs to actually be -90 to orient this correctly. So I'm just going to click inside of here. And I'm just going to type in 90 and hit enter or return. Nope, I'm sorry, -90. I did it wrong. I forgot the minus. There we go. Now it's the right side up. So again, you can do this by hand, or but what's going to happen is it's not going to be perfect. So you want to put it in there. As far as position and scale, these are things that you can basically zoom your video in or out. So again, if you click the little drop down next to scale, you can zoom in. You can zoom out. When you zoom out, you're going to see black around the outer edge. That's just because there's nothing else there. There's nothing else underneath this video. Let's say there's no layer here that is going to show when this video is smaller. So by default, it's at 100% scale. If you zoom it in, it's going to get a little grainy. It might not look like it here because it's so small, but when it's exported and you're looking at it for full screen, it's going to look a little bit grainy. It's the same thing as zooming in on a JPEG in Photoshop. You know, you can only go so far before it's going to start to look a little wonky. The position is basically going to allow you, I'm just going to click and drag over this. Like I'm going to click and hold my mouse button down, and I can go left. I'm dragging it left now, and I can put it over here. I can put it over to the right. And I could click here and make it go up or down for whatever reason. So again, if you need to zoom in, but the thing you're zooming in on is kind of going off the screen like that is, you could do a combination of zooming in and repositioning it so that the thing you want to focus on is in the center of the screen. I want to get all these back to normal, except the rotation. So that's what these little buttons along the side will do. These are going to reset that parameter. So if I reset this, it's going to reset the scale, and now it's back to the normal size. If I reset this one, it's going to reset the position, and everything's back to normal. I could do this at any point. I could save this, come back to it next week, and I could reset these parameters, and they'll go right back to the way they were. If you remember in my first video, I mentioned that basically video editing is almost completely non-destructive. You can undo things at any point. I'm going to close these out a little bit. There's also volume here. So if your volume is too low for your clip or too high, you can lower it. The thing is, if I click here and start to mess with this volume, look at how this has a little blue stopwatch here. That's an animation effect, which basically will allow me to animate this effect, which right now is the level of volume. To animate an effect, what that means is I could basically have that effect fade in or out. So I could have it be like kind of like a quieter at the beginning of the clip and get louder as it goes on or something like that. This is an advanced thing that I don't even want to get into right now because it gets a little confusing. The thing is, if you're ever doing any effects that has a little blue stopwatch here, if you notice up here, when I was in motion, these did not have little blue stopwatches. They were gray. So when I did these effects, change these parameters, it did it to the whole clip all at once. It's not going to animate anything. Under opacity, there is a little animation. I didn't get to that yet, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So anyway, we don't want that. And to make sure that that doesn't happen, you just click on it and it turns gray. It's grayed out now, which means it's not going to animate that effect. It's not going to change over the course of that clip. You don't have to worry about that right now. Just make sure that anytime you're messing with any effect, which includes these or any of the other ones I'll show you here, make sure that this is grayed out. And again, I could raise the volume or lower the volume, and it's all in decibels. So basically right now it's at 0 decibels. That doesn't mean that you can't hear it. That means it has not been altered at all. You can get as loud as 15 decibels louder than it was, or all the way to like negative infinity, which means there will be no volume whatsoever. Anyway, I'm going to do that. So why is that important? Well, let's say you have multiple clips in your timeline, but the video, some of these video clips, the audio is just louder than you'd like it to be. And then maybe the next video clip is not loud enough. Well, you can get in and individually change these volumes. So anyway, these are just some very, very basic built-in things that you can do to video and audio. Again, they're just sort of built in. They're up here in the effects controls by default. I did not add these effects manually to my video clip or audio clip. They're just there. So a couple of other simple things that we can do are by right-clicking on our video clip down here. So before I get to this one, I'm going to put this mountain video. This video was the 10-minute long. It's really, really long. I'm going to put it here. Scroll over here so I can see. So this video is 10 minutes long. It's really, really long. My idea here was that I shot this mountain video on a tripod, so the camera never moves. And again, I just let it go for 10 minutes. What happens when we right-click on a video here? Well, there's a lot of things here. Like, this is a huge menu of things we can do. We can cut or copy the video. So let's say you have a video and you've already put effects or done whatever you want and you just want to copy it. You can copy it. You would basically then move your playhead to wherever you want it to paste, and it's going to paste directly at that point. So if I actually copied and pasted it right now where this video is, it would just start here and it would cut off all this video here because this video would sort of be in the way. It's going to always get pasted at your playhead. So if I wanted it to like be after this video, again, I'm kind of zoom really far out, but I could right click and copy this. Then I would move my playhead down here. Then I would paste. And I'm just going to use Command V. And now I basically have those two videos right here, one after another. So again, I could Command C and Command V just like we could in Photoshop or Illustrator to copy and paste. You could right click and copy something. You could right click and cut it if you just want to get rid of it. So there's that. You could select a video here and go to Edit, Copy and Paste. And you can do all that stuff up here. Anyway, what are some other things we could do? So we could clear the video. Clearing the video basically is the same as cutting, but it's not going to go into your clipboard. When you cut something, you can paste it later. When you clear something, it just goes away. Ripple delete. What the heck is ripple delete? Well, ripple delete is, let's say I have a video like this. Let's say I have this video here. I want to get rid of it, but I don't want to leave a gap. So for instance, or let's say this video here, because I'm going to come back to this one. If I just right click, why won't it let me zoom in so I can see what's going on here. If I right click and just clear, that happens. Now I'm going to have a 5-second black space. There's nothing there. And I'd have to manually drag this back so that there's no black space there. However, I'm just backing up here. I'm hitting Command Z a couple times to undo. What ripple delete will do is if I ripple delete this, it will get rid of this video, but every video past that, all of the trailing clips that are to the right are going to get moved to the left to fill that space. So it allows you to delete video or audio clips, and everything to the right will sort of move down. So again, if I do this here and ripple delete, boom, that video that I just put in there of the of the pouring the cat food is going to take that place. So that's what happens with ripple delete. Do you have to use it? No. Could I just delete that video and drag everything manually to the left? Sure. But if you have a lot of things over here to click and drag over, it gets to be slightly tedious. What are some other things we could do here? So we can unlink our audio and video. What does that mean? Well, video and audio is glued together in this clip. If I move the video, the audio moves with it. It's part of they're linked together, basically, which is exactly what you want them to be most of the time. Why would we want to unlink something? If we unlink our videos, now I can separate them. So I don't know why I'd want to do this, but I could move the mountain over here, and the video, the video of the mountain and the audio now is sort of back the way it was. I don't know why I'd want to do that. I would say one of the main reasons to do this is, let's say you just want the video. You don't want the audio at all. Could you just click on the audio and go up to volume and lower the volume so there's no volume? Sure, that'll work. But it's still going to be here kind of in the way, right? It's like this, it's going to be this extra thing that you don't need. And if you absolutely do not want the audio there, you could basically just click on it and delete it. And now you're left with just the video. You could do the same thing. What if you just wanted the audio and not the video? Why might you want to do that? Well, let's say you want to do like a sound effect or something, a car door slamming or a toilet flushing. Yeah, you could go online to find some sort of like copyright free sounds, or you could record them yourself. When I'm doing videos and I need sound effects, I very often do them myself just because I have complete control over them. I'll record them with my phone or camera. Let's say I want a car door slamming. I'll go outside and I'll do that. I'll come in and I'll unlink the video from the audio, and I'll just delete the video. And now I have the audio clip that I want. And I might have to do things like, move it down because I might have stuff on the before and after the sound effect that I don't want. But that's another reason why you might do that. I just backed up so that they're all back together. Just wanted to explain what unlinking is. One of the other things the big thing I'm trying to get to over here is speed and duration. So right somewhere in the middle of this huge list of things is speed and duration. So when we click on that, another box comes up, and we can do things like up the speed or lower the speed. So right here, the speed is at 100%. It is 10 minutes long. It's 100% speed. It's playing the exact same speed as it was when I brought it into Premiere. Let's say I want to speed this thing up quite a bit. Well, I could either speed it up by a percentage here, or I could speed it up to a very specific time length. So let's say I want this to be exactly 10 seconds. Well, I could click in here. I'm going to just make this exactly 10 seconds. So again, this is 10 seconds, 0 frames, and 0 minutes, of course. and they're locked together. So when I do that, I just clicked off so that this would apply. This is going to be sped up 6,035.42%. It's a lot. So basically, I'm speeding this up to exactly 10 seconds. And now I'll click OK. And because I did that, my super long video is now 10 seconds long. So it's really tiny here. And I can zoom in. But now this is what it's going to look like when I play it. Right? So it's a time lapse, basically. Now, what sounds like paper crinkling is the audio, and the audio sped up as well. So that audio was basically the wind blowing in the microphone, and it was a really low sound, but when it sped up, it sounds kind of like paper crinkling, and that's just the way it works. So we can speed video up. Absolutely. We could slow video down as well. So let's say this pouring video here, which might look okay, kind of slowed down. What I'm going to do is right click on this. You have to right click on the video portion. I think was going to work better than trying to right click on the audio. And what if I want it to be slowed down? Well, let's say I slow it down to 25% speed. I'm just going to make it 25%. Oops, 25%, which means it's going to be 4 times slower than normal. I don't remember how long it was to begin with. Probably 30 seconds or something, but now it's going to be 1 minute and 17 seconds. So when I click OK, this video is going to get longer. My mountain video got much shorter because I sped it up. This video is going to get longer because I'm slowing it down, which is going to push my mountain video to the right because it just has to make room for the extra length of time being added here. So when I click on that, okay, nothing happens. Why did that? Oh, okay, yeah, it did. Oh, I know what I did wrong. So when actually I slowed that video down, it did not push this video further to the right. It basically got stopped by this video, so the rest of my video just wasn't going to play. Sorry about that. I'm going to right click. When I go to speed and duration, I have to do ripple editing. The whole ripple delete thing that allowed you to delete a video and everything moves to the left to take up that space. You have to do the same thing here. So I'm going to ripple edit this. Shifting trailing clips. Trailing clips are anything to the right of the video clip that you're currently working on. So now I'm kind of glad I did that because now you can see what's going on. Now when I reduce the speed to 25% and click OK, it has to push this video down. And so now I'm getting this. Now, notice how choppy it's playing. That is normal. When you slow something down, you are basically spreading those frames out, those 30 frames that you have per second, over more time. And so we're spending more time with each individual frame, so it's going to be a little choppy. That is just the way it goes. If you notice, the audio is slowing down as well. Right? So we can slow things down. You might have also noticed that we could also reverse things. So I'm going to come over here and go back to speed and duration. And what if I reverse my speed? I'm going to put it back up to 100% though, just so it doesn't take quite as long. But we could reverse our video, which is basically going to make it play backwards. You could reverse and slow it down, or reverse and speed it up. You can do combos of that kind of stuff here. Now it's a lot shorter again because I did not slow it down. And here is the video. It's magic. So the audio is also reversed, right? So if you have people talking or something, it's going to sound odd. But we could do that again just by right clicking. There's a lot of stuff built in here. And again, if you film some things for a particular project, knowing that you're going to slow it down, speed it up, or reverse it, or any combination, if you think ahead a little bit, you can do some really interesting things, some really interesting visual things. Anyway, that's just sort of built in here. If you notice real quickly, as I am, there's like above here, there's some yellow and then there's some red. What does this mean? Anytime you see a red line on top of your timeline here, that means you've added some kind of effects to these clips. You did something that has altered the way that they were when the clips were first brought into Premiere. That red line doesn't necessarily mean anything is wrong. However, if you are playing your video and let's say it starts to slow down, or it starts to skip, or just get kind of weird, sometimes that happens because Premiere can't keep up with the video that you're editing. It's like it's trying to process all of these effects in real time, and sometimes it just can't do it. So sometimes your video starts to play really choppy. That's not a big deal. It's more annoying than anything else. And if you were to export your video like you had to do for your 5x5 and turn it into an MP4, it would not do that. It would not play all choppy once it's exported. The export process takes care of that. But if it's too annoying, what you have to do is what's called rendering your video. And again, if you have a red line up here and if your video is playing choppy, you would hit the return button on your keyboard, or enter if you're using a PC. And what that does is it renders the video. And this could take a minute. The longer your video clips are and the more effects you've added, the longer it can take. It has to do it has to render a lot of frames. Technically, what it's doing is it's exporting a video clip onto your hard drive that has those effects added to them. So when you play this back now, it's not trying to add all of these effects in real time. It's going to be playing that little video clip that is now on your hard drive. So it's going to play back much more smoothly. Any choppiness or any kind of weird thing that went away or that was there is going to go away. Now, the choppiness that was coming from slowing my video down over here, that you can't really change. That's just because there's not enough frames there for for the video to play smoothly. The slower it is, the choppier it's going to play. That has nothing to do with rendering. Rendering your video is not going to mitigate that. Boy, this is taking a while. Sometimes the rendering will seem like it's taking a lot longer than it will. It'll kind of slow down, then it'll speed up and kind of go towards the end pretty fast. I'm half tempted to hit the cancel button, but sometimes hitting the cancel button actually takes longer for this box to go away than it does to just let it go. Now, rendering your video is not necessary. You can see down here what's happening is that anything that used to be red and that is now rendered is turning green, making it, just giving you the visual clue that everything is okay. If you've done this and it's turned green, it'll also automatically play your video from the beginning once it's done rendered. But again, here, if you do this and it's starting in your video has turned green because you've rendered it and it's still playing choppily, then you might have another issue. So I'm not sure exactly what that would be. I saw an auto save pop up, which reminded me to actually save my project. I just hit Command S. So again, those are some of the basic effects you can do right here, just sort of built right into these clips. So what are some of the other things that we can do? Well, I said we'd look at opacity as well. So for instance, these two videos here. So this one I'm in the chair, and this one I'm holding a recycling bin for whatever reason. What happens when we start to stack videos on top of each other like we stack layers in Photoshop or Illustrator? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this video and just drag it up. And I'm going to take this audio and drag it down. So basically now, instead of all this audio and video being in the same video track and audio track, again, video 1 and audio 1, which are glued together, now I have this one that's in video 2 and audio 2. Again, think of these as layers. They're still, I did not unlink them, so right, they're still locked together. My audio and my video are still locked together. But now I can put one over top of another. I basically made a sandwich. This video is the bread, and here's the stuff on the inside. Now, when I move my my clip over, or my playhead over the top, I'm only seeing the video that is on top. It is just like Photoshop. Layers that are on top are going to obscure layers that are underneath, unless we do some effects or add lower the opacity of the video that's on top. So again, I'm going to select this video that's on top, and I'm going to come up here to opacity. I already have my effects control panel open from before. That's why I don't have to click on it. I'm going to turn off the toggle here so it does not animate the effect like I mentioned before, so it's just kind of grayed out. The opacity is at 100%, but I can move it back to like 50%. And now I'm seeing both videos at the same time. Kind of exactly what you would imagine would happen if you lowered the opacity. Right, so we're starting to get some kind of surreal, weirdness going on here just by overlapping video and turning the opacity down of the video that's on top. If you lower the opacity by 50% exactly, you will have a perfect mix of the video that's on top and the video that's on bottom. You could add another video in video 3. You could lower that opacity and have 3 playing at the same time. If you want to add more things on top of these tracks, you notice there aren't any here. We only have 1 through 3. But if you need more video tracks to do more effects like that, you just have to add them. They're just not. You get 3 to begin with, and that's the default. I don't know if I showed this last time, but to do that, you go to Sequence, the Sequence menu, and Add Tracks. And if you click on that, it'll say, hey, you can add 1 video track and 1 audio track. Where do you want them to be? After video 3 and after audio 3, that's what you'd probably want. When you click OK, now there's a video 4 and there's an audio 4. So you're just putting, it's sort of like, again, it's like layers in Photoshop, but once you get past those 3, you have to add them manually. So there's that. So again, you can do some kind of interesting effects right here just by overlapping video. But there's tons of other effects that we can add to our video as well. Those we have to get to a little bit more manually. So if I come over here, I can't really see some of these other tabs that are here, but if you click on these 2 little arrows, you'll see that there's an effects tab. And there are folders, and some of these folders have folders inside of the folders because there's lots of effects that are kind of related. So let's just look at video effects. So I'm going to click on that. Now there's all of these folders. What do half of these things do? Well, if I click under Adjust, for example, I don't even know what half of these things are. You'd have to kind of experiment with them. Levels is the one I do recognize. Levels we had in Photoshop that allows you to change the to like lighten the light parts and darken the dark parts and things like that of your video, to like add a lot of contrast. I'm not going to go into these, but you can see there are quite a few here. Blur and sharpen. So there's like directional blur, just sharpen. You can sharpen your video or blur it. And again, I'll show you how these are going to apply here once I find something that kind of makes sense. Color correction, you can get in here. A lot of these things are things you'd recognize from Photoshop, maybe like brightness and contrast or color balance. Some of these things I'm not exactly sure what they do because I don't use them very often. Distort, you can mirror your video, you can magnify it, do all these weird things. These are not things that a lot of these effects just probably aren't going to apply to many of your videos, but again, you could experiment with them. Warp stabilizer is probably one of the most effective and useful of these so far. What a warp stabilizer will do is if your video is super shaky, if you were taking it and walking and your camera was like just shaking all around, the warp stabilizer will try to mitigate that and try to like basically make your video into a steady cam. It's not perfect, and it doesn't I don't have a video that's really going to make sense to do that. And it kind of has to zoom your video in. You're going to lose some clarity and whatnot, but it will mitigate that. Let's just go into something a little more, I don't know. That's something that's going to be a little bit more sort of visually interesting. I'm going to go into stylize. Stylize, once you start to look at these, they are very similar or almost identical to some of the filters that you can add in Photoshop and effects that you can add in Illustrator. Solarize, right? Texturize, emboss, these kind of things. But what I'm going to do is, first of all, move my playhead. I want to add it. I'm going to add this effect to this video here. So I'm going to move my playhead over to the top of this video so I can see what happens when I add my effect, because it's showing up here. So let's say I do an emboss. I'm going to click and drag. Basically what you can do is you can click and drag this effect and drop it right on the video clip that you want to add it to. And this is what happened. So right away I'm seeing what the emboss effect is going to do. All right, so it's still backwards, but now it's embossed. Well, that emboss is really strong. I could barely tell what's going on there. Every time you manually add a clip to the video or to your audio, then you can come up to effects controls. And I'm gonna go back. I'm just gonna kind of minimize some of the things here that I had open before. But notice that I have emboss now. And there are some things that I can change, like the direction of my emboss. So embossing is basically it's working with the contrast in your video, and it puts like a little highlight along some edges and a little shadow. You can change the angle of the light source here. You can change the amount of relief. And sometimes you got to wait a second for it to kind of do its thing. You can up the contrast or lower the contrast. You can also, a lot of these effects do what's called blend with original. That just allows you to lower the intensity of that effect. So right now, it's not blended with the original clip at all. It's 0% blended, so it is 100% embossed. If you notice, there's nothing here that says the amount of embossing I can do. That's what blending with original does. So as I up this percentage, I'm seeing the effect I've added, but now I'm seeing more of the real video that was there as well. I'm seeing 27% as a matter of fact. All right. So basically we've added that effect to our clip. You can add as many effects as you want to any video clip. You could even add multiple instances of the same effect to your video clips, if that makes sense to you for whatever reason. if you add an effect and you're sort of like, I just minimized it so I don't have to see everything here. If you've added an effect and you're like, I'm not sure I want to keep that effect, but maybe you want to have it there just in case you'd like to turn it back on later, you can just turn the effect off. That's what this little effects button is for. So if I just click on this little effects button, my emboss goes away. I can click on it again and get that effect back. So you don't have to delete, or you don't have to get rid of effects if you're not quite sure that you might, use them later. You could also right click on an effect, and you could clear it. So let's say you do want to absolutely get rid of it, clear it. You could copy that effect. And if you copy that effect, you could then go to another video clip. I'm just going to click on my mountain video here now, and I could come up here and right click and paste. And all of the parameters that I had put in place before, including the blending with the original and the angle and all that stuff, is now applied to this video. That's how you have to apply the same effect to two videos. You can't really do it to multiple. You can't add one effect to multiple videos at the same time. So there's that. This little thing over here, I could reset that effect, which would be resetting it back to the default, which was this, if you remember, before I did all of those changes. So you could reset any of your effects back to normal, back to the way they were. I'm going to get rid of this because I don't want it to be there. Click on it. I'm going to right click. Okay, won't let me clear it. I wonder why. I'm just going to turn it off. Weird that it's not letting me clear it. Yeah, don't know why. Anyway, that's that. So again, we have all of these different things that you can add. Just play around with some of this stuff. There's a lot of different things in here that you can look at. You can crop your videos and you can flip them horizontally or vertically. Flipping, again, is going to give you a mirror image, which is kind of interesting. So anyway, that's kind of how you can add video, different effects to videos. You can add noise and things like that too, and kind of make it look grainy. There's even this thing called obsolete, and these are old video effects from like Premiere back in the day. Like there's auto contrast and auto color and lots of things that we did in that we saw in Photoshop as well. So anyway, you can kind of look through those and see what's going on here. But you can add, again, multiple effects to your videos. We also have audio effects. So what are some audio effects? All kinds of different things in here, like delay and echo. So it looks like there's a digital delay and an analog delay. I don't know if this is going to even sound, I don't know how this is going to sound with this particular video, but what happens if I put that on there and play it? I don't know. I can't tell what's really going on here. But again, we could probably go in here into my analog delay and really change some of the stuff to really make it sound quite different. Well, yeah, that sounds quite different, doesn't it? So I definitely pushed it too far. Anyway, I'm going to get rid of this because I do not like that. But again, there are some things in here that can really help, or that can enhance your audio or whatever. Obsolete audio effects. There's like chorus and different things, flanger, a lot of things that if you play guitar or electric instruments, you'll kind of know what that means. De-hummer and de-noiser, de-crackler. These things are kind of interesting. Like de-hummer for example, if you have a really low hum in your video, like you're in a car or something, and there's this low hum you want to get rid of, it does a pretty good job of that. It takes some of the low frequency sounds out, so that it might actually, mitigate low sounds and things like that. The same with decrackler, if you have like a lot of, I guess, crackles going on. Denoiser is if you have sort of like a hissing, if there's sort of like a constant hiss or something going on in your video, the denoiser could work. Again, here's reverbs and pitch shifters and phasers and things like that. Phaser might actually, so here it says you're adding an obsolete effect. Do you want to add the obsolete one or the new one? I don't know. I'm just going to click yes and see what happens. All right, so yeah, I'm not sure if that's doing a ton here. Okay, I can kind of hear it a little bit. Here, mix is going to be what's going to make it more prevalent. All right, I guess this video clip's just not the best for that. Anyway, you just experiment around with that. But basically, these effects can be added or removed at any time, and you can just, again, experiment around with these. One of the more interesting effects is what's called a ultra key, and ultra key is basically how you can do green screen effects. So if you know anything about green screen, you know that they can shoot things. They can shoot video or film with a green background. Actually, almost any solid sort of really saturated color works. And you can remove that color and basically replace it with transparency, so that video clips underneath will show through instead. So let me find something that actually has, I think that's kind of what I was going with this video here. So let me go back. I'm going to go back to this video clip, and I'm going to reset everything. I'm going to reset the opacity, because I lowered that opacity before. Let's say I want this blue to go away. I want the blue to be transparent so that I can put a video clip underneath and have that show through. I'm going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to put that video on top of another video. Okay, so it's on top of the other video of me sitting in the chair. Now I'm going to add the ultra key effect, and it's under keying, but also you could just search for things here. So let's say you're like, can I change the contrast, or can I do something? You can just type contrast, and there's a bunch of stuff that comes up. Brightness and contrast, auto contrast. I'm just going to type in key, and again, there's the one called ultra key. So what ultra key is going to do is I'm going to click and drag it on top of my video, the one that I want to take the blue away from, which is this top one. Drag my ultra key here. Nothing happens, right? And visually, it did not change. Sometimes when you add audio or video effects, you don't actually notice anything until you actually get over and change some of the parameters. When I added the emboss, it showed up right away. Some of them don't. So what's going on here? Well, I have to choose the key color. So what I need to do is I need to basically make this key color, the color I'm keying out, blue. How do I do that? I'm going to click on the little eyedropper, and then I'm going to come over here and click on blue. And right away, you can see what's happening there. Now, it looks a little weird. There's a little blue around the edges. It's a little grainy here. That's because before I did that, if you look at, let me see. There we go. there's a lot of gradient in here, right? There's like, this is not one solid chunk of blue. When people are doing true real green screen, they spend hours ensuring that the background has no shadows, that there's no highlights, that it is as like the way they light it and the way they hang the fabric or paint the room, everything is a solid color, and that's when it works the best. Whatever color I click on here, it's going to take away that color and ones that are similar, but really, really dark blues, really, really light blues might not get keyed out. So it works the best with a really solid color. Anyway, I'm going to click here, and now when I play the video, again, you're going to see the video below it through that video, which is pretty cool. So again, you can just keep doing it. If it doesn't work right, you could, you could go back. I mean, I could click here and take the yellow away if I wanted. Not that I really want to, but now, right, I'm in the background. There's two me's, so I'm in the background. So it's a kind of a very fun thing, and I think it's like, especially if you film it once again, knowing that you're going to do this, so you can produce some really pretty interesting effects by using the green screen technology, which is basically the Ultra Key. You could add multiple instances of Ultra Key. So let's say you do have a gradient in the background, and your first click only gets rid of the darker ones of those colors. Add another Ultra Key to that same video clip and click on the darker color or the lighter color, and it should mitigate that. You can just keep doing it until you get the right effect that you like. So anyway, that's what's going on with some of these effects. And again, you can change the effects, you can reset them, you can turn them on or off. Everything is pretty straightforward. Just have to play around with it. So that is about it for just effects. My last video is going to be how we can add transitions and text to our videos. Like, let's say we want the title to come up, or credits at the end of the video. So again, this is how you add audio effects or video effects to your video clips, and again, how you can come up here and change those parameters.